privilege to call the April 9th, 2020 school committee meeting to order. Per Governor Baker's executive order of the 12th of March, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, MGL 30, Chapter 38, Section 20, the public will not be allowed to physically access the school committee meeting. Members of the public will be able to view this meeting on Walpole Media cable access the following day. Questions regarding the school committee meeting may be sent to our administrative assistant, Erin Mortali, at mwortali@walpole.k12.ma.us. And conforming to best practices for the meeting, I'm going to call a roll of the committee members present. Mr. Buckley, present. Mrs. Gallivan,
present.
Ms. Muccini,
Present.
Ms. Gayotzitz,
Present.
Ms. Denizio,
Present.
Mr. Breen,
Present.
Ms. Syrek.
Present.
Excellent. Well, welcome everyone. Our next order of business is the Walpole High School Student Report. We're glad to have Brendan Mahoney here again to report via Zoom high school's going.
Hello, I am Brendan Mahoney, and I'm a junior at Walpole High School. This week, the Walpole High School started a new schedule for classes for the students, and this was a continuation of the remote learning program. These classes are 1 hour long periods where teachers can choose to hold classes like normal, or they can give students work ahead of time and allow the period of class to be used to have questions answered. And there are 3 classes a day with 15-minute breaks in between. And for sports, relating to the spring sports season, the MIAA Board of Directors met last Monday to discuss the status of the spring sports season. And then they decided that spring sports will begin on May 4th if students are back in school by then, and that the MIAA tournament will be able to continue into the postseason for each sport if sports are able to return on May 4th, and the tournaments will be able to go until June 28th. For some club activity at Walpole High School, the Best Buddies have been having virtual meetings to keep in touch and spread inclusion, and the Random Acts of Kindness Club has been organizing some mask donations for hospitals in Boston. And that's about it for right now, as most things are still up in the air and are at a standstill until we return to school. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any questions for Brendan?
Just to let you all know, if we find that we can't hear you or you're breaking up, then what we may ask you to do is just cut your video off. You know, we'll still see your name and your voice, because sometimes that will help with the sound. So I'll let you know if we can't hear you.
Excellent. Thank you, Bridget. Seeing no questions, our next order, we move on to group business. Foreign language curriculum update. We have Ms. Lisa Osborne to provide us with a curriculum update.
Hi, everybody. So I'm kind of in the same boat as Brendan. We've had a lot of things that were put on hold due to our situation, but we do have 7 seniors graduating in the class of 2020. They're going to be our first group who are graduating with the seal of biliteracy. So we have 7 seniors, and the languages that are represented are Spanish, French, Russian, and Arabic. We weren't able to test anybody this spring as far as juniors, but this year's current juniors, they'll be able to test next fall to have that opportunity, next fall and next spring, to have that opportunity to have the seal. We are able to give our national French and Spanish exams. So the Latin exams, that we were able to get that in before March 13th. But the national French and Spanish exams, grades 7 through 12, we had to put on hold. But both of those organizations are allowing us to test remotely from home as long as we follow their certain protocols. So right now the teachers are collaborating to set up times and dates and protocols so that students will be able to compete for a medal. AP, we have AP French and Spanish that are planning to test their kids remotely. College Board rolled out their protocols for the AP exams at home. And the French and Spanish exams are going to be particularly challenging because College Board decided to test only the oral speaking part of the exam, which is very hard to coach and give feedback to students remotely without the use of the language lab or just a lot of face-to-face contact. So our two teachers, Rich Sturgis and John McCluskey, are up for a big challenge, but they're putting in some extra time to be able to work with their kids. And then this is the first year that we rolled out the Latin dual enrollment in lieu of running AP Latin. Laura Kay is running an AP dual enrollment with UMass Boston. And so she's been able to coordinate with the professor and the director of the program at UMass to make sure that Laura is still continuing with her curriculum so that the students will be able to get credit from UMass for the dual credit. And then finally, the remote learning that we're working on, we've had PLC meetings with Johnson Middle School and with Bird Middle School, and the high school has had department meetings. I think the feedback is positive. The teachers like the schedule with their students. They said that the attendance has been great with the students. The students have been very patient with us and kind of coached us through a lot of this remote learning because the kids know more than we do. And so we've been using a variety of platforms. Ann Arpin has really helped out with resources. We've been using Screencastify, GimKit, Google Meets, Google Chat, Edpuzzle, Seesaw, and of course the Google Classroom to roll out information. And the kids have been emailing us with questions. They've been asking questions in our Google Meets, and I really give these kids a lot of credit because I know that, you know, as Brendan said, there's a lot of kids K through 12 who are disappointed with a lot of things that have had to be that have been canceled, and you know, they're really making the best of it and putting their best foot forward. So hooray for Walpole High Schools, hooray Walpole District K through 12.
Thank you very much, Lisa. Questions for Ms. Osborne? Nancy?
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, Lisa, good to see you.
Good to see you.
I'm just interested in the dual enrollment that you were talking about. Is that something that is going on for the first time? Does it happen in other departments? And is it something that you would recommend doing more than what we're doing already?
So this is something that Laura Kay and I and the Latin teachers discussed. It was a very thoughtful discussion because we've just found with the AP Latin exam, we're not sure if we agree with the goals that College Board has laid out with the curriculum. It's a lot of translation, and a lot of Latin courses are moving away from direct translation and more toward reading comprehension. And so with this dual enrollment, students are able to learn more authors and do a variety of activities rather than just teach to the test for the Latin AP exam. So Laura has a contact from her old graduate program, Dr. Jacqueline Carlisle, and she's been joining the dual enrollment class with there are some other schools in the state that have already worked with this professor, and so we just find that the kids enjoy the class more. Laura has kept it rigorous. She's kept in contact with her professor, and we just find that it's a better solution for students who are taking a fourth year of Latin. And then it's hard to say, Nancy. I would recommend it for anyone who's interested in pursuing it. The difficulty is finding a professor either at one of the state schools who's willing to work with you. So I reached out to a couple of the UMass schools, and unfortunately they don't have a professor that coordinates for French or Spanish, just out of curiosity to explore it. But this professor at UMass Boston has been rolling this out for a few years now. Unfortunately, it's not the perfect system because with the way university have gone to pass-fail and with the way Walpole has modified its grading, it's hard for me to speak to how perfect it's going to be, or it's kind of not the year. It's a tough year to really speak to how successful the program is. But I think, in terms of grading, but we just find that the kids have really enjoyed the class and enjoyed the variety of authors. And I think Laura has kind of enjoyed tweaking her skills and exploring other ideas rather than teaching to the AP test. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, very much so.
Okay.
I've read a little bit about it from the financial point of view, that as college becomes more unaffordable for kids, that if high school can do some dual enrollment, it may take a semester away in the long run. And I'm not saying that that's the main reason you would do it, but I didn't realize we were doing any of it. So yeah, that more than answered the question. Thank
Great.
you.
Any further questions from the committee? Dr. Goff?
Hi, Lisa. I just wanted to thank you for your leadership, because as department chair, you're trying to navigate teaching these classes, instructing these students in a new way, but at the same time, what you're doing is you need to collaborate and really help lead the middle school teachers as well. So you're doing that simultaneously. So thank you. I appreciate that, because I know that's no small feat.
Thank you. I have to tell you, the teachers are teaching me. I mean, the PLC leaders at Johnson and Bird, they're making the agenda. Miss Bellino and Miss Afong, they're making the agenda. They're running the meetings. They're coordinating between each other and, new teachers at the school. So I don't know if I'm leading. I think I'm being led. And I think our teachers at the middle school are doing an excellent job.
That's great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent. Anything further from Ms. Osborne? Thank you very much, Lisa. We really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
I'm going to sign off.
Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next order of business is the superintendent's report. Dr. Goff.
Yes. I'm going to turn this over to Assistant Superintendent Bill Hahn. I'm just going to make a couple quick comments, and then he's going to get into pieces of the curriculum. So just to, and then I'm just trying to make sure. Mark, I'm going to mute you. I hear a little dog chirping in the background. So we're just keeping up with all the Zoom sessions, all our Google Meets, everything else. And also just continuing to meet with our Leadership Council on a weekly basis. As I mentioned to some of you earlier, Mr. Imbush and I met virtually with our senior representatives, and just reaching out to them, listening to their feedback, trying to answer some of their questions, just see where these seniors are, and just trying to brainstorm, any possibilities that we may have to salvage anything at the end of the year if we're able to do so. Mr. Imbush and I offered to meet with them on a weekly basis, just to be able to listen to them and just problem solve as we navigate through these uncharted territories. I also posted my message on the Walpole Public School webpage this morning, so I won't get into that too much, so please check it out. In addition to having some images of our families, our students, and our staff, I did post 2 video clips. One is a video clip that's called Digital Choir, and that was organized by our Walpole High School choir director, Mrs. Prickle. And what they've been undertaking is really an initiative away from since they've been out of school. It's been difficult for them. It's been disappointing because their festival was canceled, so they were unable to compete. So what they did is they worked together to perform this type of ensemble that the choir director put together. It's fantastic. So if you haven't been able to see it, I really recommend it. The second video features Mary Kelly. She's an Elm Street parent and a PAC chair and a nurse at Brigham and Women's Hospital. So it was just a news clip on some of the great things that she's doing. So it was nice to see. So check that out. So I'm going to turn the rest over to Bill Hahn.
Good evening, everybody. I just have a kind of a brief summary of how we're doing the remote learning. And then I can take any additional questions if there are any. I think all of us might have heard the analogy that a lot of people are using to describe the process of creating a remote learning plan to building a plane as you fly it. And while I think this analogy works, and I think I've been guilty of using it, I've been thinking a little bit about it and think the analogy of building a house while you live in it fits better with developing our remote learning plan. In the really early stages, we focus on providing our staff with a foundation and guidance to ensure that we'd stay connected with students and create continuity of learning that would act as a quick shelter for our home. This approach has proven to be very helpful when Governor Baker announced that all schools would be closed until May 4th. And while we did have to make some adjustments, our transition to long-term remote learning has been smooth. We've provided more guidance to our staff and worked closely with our special education department to ensure we're developing a plan to meet the needs of all of our students. I liken this next phase to framing our house and adding all the crucial resources like electric and plumbing that often hide behind our walls. Our middle schools and high schools have developed virtual learning schedules as encouraged by the Department of Education, and we continue to communicate with families to engage all of our learners. Our elementary school teachers are managing the multiple demands of their curriculum and collaborating closely with one another so our students can dive deeper into past content and grow as writers, readers, mathematicians, musicians, historians, just to name a few things. And as we continue to build this home, we're adjusting to our plans as needed. We're listening to all stakeholders and doing our best to be flexible to meet the needs of our community. But the main reason why I prefer the home analogy is because anyone who works in any form of construction knows that building anything requires tremendous collaboration and teamwork. At most job sites, there are electricians, plumbers, contractors, designers, and laborers, all who contribute to the final product. Remote learning has demonstrated the importance of working with our families to educate children. As someone with 3 kids at home, myself, all who are engaged in some form of remote learning in their schools, it's very clear to me how hard our families are working. And Dr. Goff and I are incredibly grateful to our families who have picked up the hammer, helped lay the foundation, or even assisted the design of this remote learning plan. This has been a true partnership, and one that I know that I'm grateful for, and that all the administrators talk at great length, how special the community we work in. And we're going to continue to work very hard at this plan and make sure that we continue to develop it and make the changes we need to meet the needs of all of our students. We know, Dr. Goff and I know that there might be specific questions, so we wanted to be able to answer any questions that do exist, but we continue to move forward in a way that I believe is successful as we develop and continue to implement our remote learning plan.
Thank you, Bill. Questions from the committee for Bill? Seeing none. Our next order of business is old business, Mass School Building Authority update. Dr. Goff.
Just to provide a brief update, on April 15th, the designer RFS, the request for services, responses will be due for the architect, for the design team. And then after that, we still are sticking with our date of May 19th for the designer selection panel. And then if all goes well, then in June, they'll award the designer contract. So we're still on schedule, we're still on target. If you remember, during the early release day next Friday, the educators, some of our educators were going to participate in the educational visioning process with David Stevens as part of our visioning as the first step. We are going to go through with that. We're going to do it virtually. And it's a little bit more involved because we have 2 middle schools, so two groups of educators to get some representation. So he is just reorganizing the process. Bill Hahn and I will meet with him early next week to just take a look at that, of how it's going to streamline. We do know with Zoom that we're able to get people into groups and pop in and out, and so that people can have some collaboration within that time frame. So we're still going forward.
Excellent. Anything further? Questions for Dr. Goff on MSBA? Seeing none, moving on to subcommittee activity. There is none for this 2-week stint. Citizens' comments, as we, Mrs. Gallivan. I was gonna say, this is gonna be a short meeting. Man.
Sorry, I got too technically confident. I shouldn't have done that. I just wanted to tell people that I did send a letter to our legislative delegation, asking them for any information that they could share with us about finances when it comes to, potential help that could come to us through the federal stimulus program. So I just wanted to point out that that letter went out, and I had originally said that I was going to just try to talk to them, and that just didn't work out real well. So I put it into a letter, and I'll send you a copy of the letter.
Excellent. Anything further? Seeing none, moving on to citizens' comments. As we said, any comments from the community for the school committee can be directed to us through our school committee email or to our assistant, Mrs. Mortali, at mmortali@walpole.k12.ma.us. Now moving on to approval of warrants, donations, and minutes. Ms. Denizio.
I will make a motion to approve the following payroll warrant from April 2nd, 2020, number 2040PA, for the amount listed in your packets.
Second?
Motion by Ms. Denizio, second by Ms. Gallivan. Call the roll. Mr. Buckley, yes. Mrs. Gallivan?
Yes?
Ms. Muccini?
Yes.
Ms. Gaotitz?
Yes.
On the second screen there. Ms. Denizio?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes.
Ms. Cyrek?
Yes.
Excellent.
I will make a motion to approve the following accounts payable warrants from March 26th, 2020, number 220039, and from April 2nd, 2020, number 220040, for the amounts listed in your packets.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Denizio, seconded by Ms. Cyrek. All those in favor, Mr. Buckley, yes. Mrs. Gallivan?
Yes?
Ms. Muccini?
Yes.
Ms. Gaotitz?
Yes.
Ms. Denizio?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes.
Ms. Cyrek?
Yes.
Excellent. All the warrants? Are those all the warrants? Excellent. Would someone like to take donations?
I'll make a motion to accept the following gifts and donations: to Boyden School from Bay State Textiles and Recycling in the amount of $101.50, to OPR from the OPR PAC iPad purchases in the amount of $500, to Elm Street School from the Elm Street PAC Battle of the Books and book purchases in the amount of $1,000, and to Elm Street School from Mass Cultural Council for Innovation Lab equipment in the amount of $500.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Denizio, seconded by Ms. Cyrek. All those in favor, Mr. Buckley, yes. Mrs. Gallivan?
Yes?
Ms. Muccini?
Yes.
Ms. Gaotitz?
Yes.
Ms. Denizio?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes.
Ms. Cyrek?
Yes.
Would someone like to take the approval of minutes? I believe we could do this in one motion if there is no objection. So if someone wants to make a motion to approve all three, just read them off.
I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the following minutes. Regular school committee meeting minutes for March 26th, executive session meeting minutes for March 26th, and the executive session meeting minutes of April 2nd.
Second.
Motion by Ms. Muccini, second by Ms. Syrek. Mr. Buckley, yes. Gallivan,
Yes.
Ms. Muccini,
Yes.
Ms. Gaeltitz,
Yes.
Ms. Denizio,
Yes.
Mr. Breen,
Yes.
Ms. Syrek.
Yes.
Excellent. There is a need to go into executive session for the purposes of potential union and non-union bargaining and potential contract negotiations. The school committee will solely come out of executive session for the purposes of adjournment. So if I may have a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Motion by Ms. Denizio, second
Second.
by Ms. Muccini. Poll of the committee, Mr. Buckley, yes. Mrs. Gallivan,
Yes.
Ms. Muccini,
Yes.
Ms. Gaeltitz,
Yes.
Ms. Denizio,
Yes.
Mr. Breen,
Yes.
Ms. Irek.
Yes.
Excellent. And just a point of information,